All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. It is Brian Hines back with Alex Barth, 9 days away from the first round of the NFL draft. So we're going to put our mock drafts aside tonight, and we are going to do it a little differently. We asked you guys to submit some mock drafts on Twitter, so we get to yell at you this time instead of you yelling at us. We'll change the roles up a little bit here, and then just very quickly, again, 9 days. We're almost there. We're about to cross this bridge. Just how the schedule is going to look for this show going forward a little bit. We'll hear from Elliot Wolf Thursday morning down at Gillette, so we should have a kind of an early afternoon show on Thursday. We're going to put, our mock draft 6.0, I believe we're going to push that to Tuesday of next week. So we'll be here about probably early afternoon again on Thursday to recap what Elliot Wolf has to say. We will do our last mock draft 6.0 on Tuesday of next week, 2 days before the draft. And then that's probably going to be it. You'll hear from us Friday. We might have a new quarterback to talk about, recap the first round. Maybe who knows?
Should have a new quarterback to talk about.
Maybe one player, maybe two players to talk about on Friday after the first round. So that's kind of the layout going forward. We'll again talk about your mock drafts tonight. Elliot Wolf Thursday, our last mock draft live Tuesday, and then first round of the draft recap next Friday. So before we get into your mock drafts tonight, we did have a little bit of visits news as the 30 visits wrap up tomorrow, I believe is the last day teams can bring prospects into the facility. We finally checked off the last quarterback we were all waiting to hear about. Michael Penix was in Foxborough for dinner. It was in the facility this afternoon, I believe, or today for that 30 visit with the coaching staff, with the Patriots brass. Again, we haven't heard anything from Penix, right? They didn't meet with him at the combine. It was a small contingent at his pro day compared to the 9-10 scouts, coaches that was at Jaden Daniels, Drake May, but smart to kind of do all the due diligence at this position, obviously the biggest position of need. So they finally kind of check off that Michael Penix box a week and a half before the draft here.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear it. Look, I still wouldn't bet any money on them drafting Michael Penix, but the fact is that they see at least one scenario where they would potentially draft him. So they want to make sure, and there should be a scenario under consideration where he's too talented and quarterback is too big of a need for them to be sitting there and simply saying there's no way in which we will end up picking this guy. Doesn't mean he's the most likely picked. It doesn't mean he should be the pick, but he absolutely should be at least in consideration, and especially for a guy like him with his injury history, to draft him sight unseen, I think would be an operational failure, I guess would be the word for it. So good they had him in. Glad he's under consideration. Again, I still would just sit there and take Drake May at third. Keep it simple, right? But maybe they get a bag offer. Maybe Drake May goes second. Things change last minute in Washington. You want to be ready. And it's good to see them getting ready for that kind of situation.
Yeah, especially, you kind of mentioned there a guy like Penix who had all these the injuries in the past, 2 ACL tears, 2 season-ending right shoulder injuries. If there's a potential chance you could have that guy as your next quarterback, if the board if the curveball kind of happens and the board shakes out that way, like you want him in the building, you can run him through, physicals and medical tests on these 30 visits. So important, right. Like it's such a big spot for any team. And obviously this team, like just do your due diligence on all these guys. It doesn't hurt. So that was the one guy like we haven't heard about. Again, they do have like Tyler Hughes, the wide receiver coach on staff, who was an offensive analyst at Washington last year. So he could probably provide some intel, but yeah, just good to get him in and sit down, talk, do medical tests and all that, and kind of check that box off there.
Do you put any stock into, because originally we thought JJ McCarthy was visiting whatever it was, like 2 weeks ago with May and Daniels, and then he didn't, right? So May and Daniels, remember May came the day of the earthquake, and then
Earthquake.
Daniels came the day. No, who came?
May
Daniels
was
was
the
earthquake or
earthquake.
eclipse? All right, May was the
May was
earthquake. Daniels was
earthquake.
the eclipse.
Daniels was
So
eclipse.
that was
Yeah.
like 2 weeks ago, and then you had Penix and McCarthy kind of visit together. Do you put any stock into that grouping?
Not really. I mean, Washington's just bringing them all in at the same time.
Okay,
Which
that's the
that's
stupidest freaking
weird.
thing. What, you're gonna
Yeah.
sit them all down at a table together? Like, what do you think you're gonna learn from that?
So someone, I forget who said it online. I saw it on Twitter, I think. Someone said that's how San Fran did it, which is obviously where Adam Peters is coming
How'd
from
that
because
go?
they like to see how the prospects interact with each other, which
Who
I don't know.
cares?
Like,
So
like,
Trey Lance was very courteous to Mac Jones and Justin Fields, basically, is what you're telling me. Great.
and it worked out wonderful for him.
Well,
But
then you know what? If that's the method to the madness, JJ McCarthy, you are a Washington Commander.
well, it looked like Dan Quinn picked up Jaden Daniels at the airport, made the rest of them Uber. So who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I don't put too much into the order of operations there. I don't know. Do you feel differently about that or
A little bit, because I do wonder. You got to schedule these, right? So teams don't necessarily get every top 30 visit they want. And you got to make sure if there's guys you want to talk to, you because you only get 30 visits. So usually, and I believe the cutoff date is Wednesday.
yeah?
Usually you see kind of this late rush because what happens is teams are waiting to hear from guys, and then it's all right. We got a couple more, we set this visit aside for so-and-so, and he was already booked or whatever. So, is there anybody else we can fly out here last minute? I wonder if this was a case of, all right, we met with the guys we want to meet with. We got a couple of visits left. Let's call up Michael Penix and JJ McCarthy. Now, it sounds like they already planned on meeting with McCarthy, but maybe that wasn't always the plan or something like that. But this felt to me as like they had a meeting left over and they felt like Penix was a guy they should talk to. And maybe it was the same with McCarthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we did know about McCarthy like a week, maybe even a week and change, like before the interview.
Well, it was
actually
initially reported
happened.
he was going to be here last Wednesday, and then we never heard anything about that not happening. So,
Yeah. So maybe you worried about lasting impressions at all? If the last people they hear from are kind of JJ and Michael Penix, could that influence them at all here?
well, if they're like Evan Lazar with recency bias, Michael Penix, you are a New England Patriot. No, I think you need to know if that's your job that
Yeah.
you need to be very aware of the recency bias thing. The one thing I do wonder, so it said they took Drake May out for steak dinner, right? And Michael Penix out for steak dinner. How many steak dinners have Trod Mayo and Elliott Wolf had the last 3
They
weeks?
gotta be tired of Davio's or wherever they're going. And
Speak for yourself. If I was an NFL GM,
yeah,
that would probably be my favorite part of the pre-draft process. Because think about it. You're eating nice in Indy for the combine. And then you get all these steak dinners here when guys come through for me. I would max out all my top 30 visits.
wasn't
I'd be
there
inviting them all to steak dinners.
wasn't there a player recently? Might have been at the combine where like a team took him out and he's like, I can't eat right now because I have a visit tonight or something, and I don't want to ruin my appetite or something like
I
that.
remember seeing something like that. Like they thought it was a dinner meeting, but he was like, no, I have a meeting after this. That's a dinner meeting or something.
Yeah. So he's like, I can't eat right now because I want to go have my steak later tonight or something. But yeah,
That's
I'm
true.
sure all
Players
these
get a
guys,
bunch of steak dinners out of this too. They're eating good. Everybody's
yeah,
eating good during draft season,
yeah.
except us
What
working on covering the draft and are working that night.
what's the I don't know
Get a
if you're a
nice steak dinner on
prospect.
the other side of this.
Yeah, if you're a prospect, what's your kind of drink if you go to these places?
What's your
Do you have
what?
to like what's your drink order? Do you have to like
Oh,
look all professional and get like a glass of wine, or do you just go to a beer or
I think I'm just drinking water, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just trying to get in shape
just water?
as I house a massive steak. But well, I guess what position, right? If I'm a quarterback, I think I'm just drinking water because I want to play it safe. If I'm like
Offensive
line, they're
lineman.
obviously having a beer with the steak. Like, let's be honest here, right?
Yeah. You'd
Wide
hope.
receiver, defensive back, that feels more of like a mixed drink kind of position. It's like this is like that tweet, right? Remember, you know where it's like quarterback tweet, running back tweet, and the wide receiver tweet is just like some nonsense.
Bizarre tweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
They're
thought you were
all
gonna
they're
ask me
all
like, what's my order? Like, what's your master's dinner?
oh, no. They're all getting wined and dined fairly nicely now. But I believe
Yeah.
that's all the last kind of notable 30 visit. We'll see if, again, tomorrow's the deadline. So we'll see if anyone trickles in there last minute. But that's your big four quarterbacks in the building again. So we can move on to you guys' mock drafts now, and we can pull those up right here. So we asked you guys again to submit your mock drafts. I guess if you still want to run over there and submit them, you can go respond to this tweet right now. We'll try to get as many as possible in here, and we can just get right started. First one on the board right here, we got Drake May. Then we got our Kingsley Suamatoa, Javon Baker, Chris Abrams-Drain, Jaheim Bell, Bub Means in the
Yes,
simulator.
Frank
Finally,
Crumb too. Frank
big
Crumb's in the
day,
simulator too now. Finally. It only took
big
him till a
day.
week before the draft.
9 days before the
Yeah.
draft, they finally got him in there. So, I mean, Drake May, I love the start, and then
Yeah.
Kingsley is someone they've showed a lot of interest in at the tackle spot. So, kind of a good start there. But what else you reading out of this one?
Yeah, I mean, that feels pretty chalk off the top. I assume like Kingsley's the top tackle on the board there at 34. I don't love Javon Baker at 68 and then doubling up with him with Bub Means. Those are two very similar players. Those aren't two
Yeah,
guys that are necessarily, project to be on the field together. I'd keep Means. I'd move off Javon Baker. He's, you have two true X's there. I'd try to get more of a Z. Maybe if like Johnny Wilson's there at 68, somebody like that. I do like Chris Abrams-Drain. I would almost, and I think you might be able to do this in the draft. I think it may play out this way, like flip Simpson and Bell. I
yeah.
think
Jalen
Bell's going to
Simpson.
fall just because I don't think any team really knows what position he plays. And like, I really like Simpson for them because he can do so many little things that they need. But I mean, I like both players one way or the other. They end up with both players. Like that's a solid draft. Obviously, like Bub Means is a project wide receiver, and Amani Bailey had a pretty good Senior Bowl. So as a developmental running back, a guy to compete with Kevin Harris for that third running back spot, like that's a solid pickup. So I'd still be kind of worried about the receiver position here. I think we'd be talking a lot about, all right, wide receiver in 2025. Let's get to know the class. But it's not bad. Like if they walked away from that, I'd say it's a solid job. I'd say, this is like a solid B draft. Like they did well enough. I'm not going to be ecstatic, but they certainly did well enough. It does feel realistic though.
Yeah, definitely. It is tough because we can't see, who was on the board at the time, like when Javon Baker was picked, right? If
Right.
one of those kind of Z inside receivers fall, I think I'd prefer that, especially if you're going to double up with Bub Means later on. And then Monty Bailey, we could just say he was another guy I think they had a visit with, worked at the Senior Bowl, as you said, under Troy Brown. So they have some intel on him there. So kind of a good maybe depth running back there to look out for. But yep, that one feels pretty reasonable, especially going May and then a tackle they showed a bunch of interest in and a receiver there. But next one from Carlos, we have some trades here. We're gonna stick at 3 and draft Drake May. We're going to move down a little bit in the second round for Xavier Legette, the first tackle at 68 with Javon Foster. And then he works Bub Means in here again. And then we got, Cade Stover at tight end and just a couple depth pieces there. We can look at the trades. We moved back 4 spots with Tennessee and picked up another 5th. And then we moved back 6 spots with Atlanta and picked up another 6th rounder in that process too. So lots of players in this one. Another Drake May. I feel like we got a lot of Drake Mays in this one, but Legette, Javon Foster, quarterback, receiver, tackle, all taken care of in the top 3 there. What are you thinking?
I mean, that's really high for Javon Foster, but if you like him, you like him.
Yeah.
I said great job with the trades. I almost wonder, you have 43 and 46, which are very back to back. In 180, 193, 197, I would have maybe looked to combine one of the 140 picks and one of those 6th-round picks and move up. Maybe get back into the top 120, something like that. But there's a lot of players on here I like. The order is a little weird, but there's a lot of players. I like Javon Foster. I like Cade Stover. Cade Stover's probably in about the right spot. Bum Means. I like Rasheen Ali. I think you probably get him later because of his injury again, but like a lot of good players. The order's a little all over the place. But this is a good example again where like Xavier Legette, he's not even a Z. He's more like a gadget player. Like him and Bum Means, they will be on separate paths and you can develop them both on a parallel. So that's, to go back to last draft, right? That's kind of what I'm talking about, where you want to try to get guys that complement each other. And I think this draft just overall does a good job. Javon Foster, DeMar Glaze, players at the same position or similar positions that complement each other well.
Where are you at with Legette? Because I feel like, 1 year of production, he was kind of a late bloomer, struggled at the Senior Bowl pretty badly, but then, he's a freak athlete, tested off the charts at the combine. Where are you kind of at with him? And, is 38, you think, kind of the right range for him there?
It's a little high. I think he's a gadget player. I don't think he's an X. Like, I think he's a gadget player. So this is the draft. I'm still looking at wide receiver in 2025 pretty highly, but he could end up being a very good player. Like the Debo comps out there. I know Debo's like the number 1 receiver on the depth chart in San Francisco, but he's not a wide receiver 1. He's a player whose game is built off of the other things they do with Christian McCaffrey and Kittle and Ayuk, right? So, who are you building him off of? You still need to add that guy, but he's a unique player. And I'm always a proponent of, if there's a unique player you think you can make work, just add him and figure out the rest later. Cause like there may not be a Xavier Legette in the draft next year. So that one really would come down to coaching, and that could be boom or bust. But if they think they have a plan, again, that's a little high. Ideally, you get him at 68. I don't think that's going to happen. I wouldn't be the most upset. I like the draft before this one better than this one, but this one isn't terrible.
Yep. He's a hip drop guy too, Xavier Legette.
That's true,
He's going to be tough to bring down anyway. But here we go. A little bit different. This one getting a little crazy. We got a Jaden Daniels instead of Drake May. And then we're moving all the way up. We're trading 34 in our first rounder next year and our third rounder next year to go up to 8 with Atlanta. And we're checking off Joe Alt. And then Tez Walker, Brendan Rice. That's kind of an overlap, to kind of similar skill sets there with, X receivers. And then Jaheim Bell again. Joe Milton works his way into this one. Jalen Simpson again. Josh Newton, a good corner. But this trade up, I mean, getting Joe Alt is intriguing, but I don't think you can give up your first round pick next year kind of under any circumstance here.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. I hate the idea of giving up the future first. Like Tez Walker and Brendan Rice, there's a ton of overlap. I don't think you need both of those guys. Like Jalen Simpson there, not respecting the board. Grayson Murphy there is a little low. Just a lot. There's a lot going on there.
Little crazy. But what about right up top, Jaden Daniels? If Washington, it looks like they're going Jaden Daniels, but if they end up, kind of throwing us a curveball and go Drake May, are you still locked in on pick and stick Jaden right there?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. But not trading up for Joe Alt. We'll stick at 34 and see who falls there.
Right.
Here's maybe a little more realistic Joe Alt one.
Yeah.
Short trade down with the Chargers, moving down 2 spots, and you pick up their 37th overall pick early in the second round. So you get your tackle, you get Michael Penix in the second, Ricky Pearsall, a receiver I love, Alex Hunt is an edge who, we've talked a good amount about, Cam Kitchens, Dylan Labe, Josh Newton, Brendan Rice in the later rounds. That feels like the more realistic path if you want to get Joe Alt. But I don't know if Penix will be there. 34. I don't know if he makes it out of the first round as long as his medicals are still good. But
What they get
what
for
do you
5 or what they get for 3?
just 5 and 37?
Yeah, so you should get more than that. I don't know that Penix gets to 34. I still don't think that's going to happen. If it does, great. Some interesting stuff where like Josh Newton's going to be closer to the 100. Like you could switch Josh Newton and Jalix Hunt here. Probably switch
Yeah.
Brendan Rice and him too. But I mean, this is a good haul because you get your starting left tackle, you get a legitimate starting franchise upside quarterback. Rick Pearsall is a good player. I really like Cam Kitchens for them. Going to give you some Devin McCourty type of snaps, like in that role, not that kind of player. Josh Newton can play a little on the boundary, can play in the slot, really bolsters your cornerback depth. Your two receivers, again, complement each other well.
Yeah.
Dylan Lobby's a solid player. Hunt's a good, like, developmental edge. He's probably not going to play a ton in 2024, but now you got all these rushers on expiring contracts, Matt Judon, Josh Uche, Dietrich Wise, on and on. You get a guy that you can kind of build towards 2025 for. Again, the order is weird, but it's a good haul. It's good. It's a really good, and I think you could, outside of Penix at 34, I think you could still end up with all these players. The order would just look different. But this is a good draft.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how the receivers work, right? You get Brendan Rice, who's kind of that big X guy, and then Ricky Pearsall, who's I still love Ricky Pearsall, but he's more of your inside Z slot guy. I don't know why the Chargers would also trade up to 3, just maybe like that's move that maybe the Giants move up to 3, draft JJ McCarthy, and you go down to 6.
How much does Jim Harbaugh really believe in JJ McCarthy?
He's going up to get him.
Exactly.
I don't know. All right. Next one we got. This is a pretty good haul. Can you even see that? That's kind of small. Let's blow it up a little bit.
If we zoom in on that. There you go. A little more.
That better?
All right. Yeah.
That's as far as I can go, I think. All right. Back to Drake May at 3. We can't see the trades, but a trade down about 8 spots there in the second and get Ladd McConkey, back-to-back offensive tackles, and Amadaji and Blake Fisher. Cade Stover again, Bub Means again, Dylan Labe again. Mo Kamara is an interesting edge rusher. 151 might be a little late for him. Travis Glover is a good developmental tackle, but I mean, you get some intriguing receivers that complement each other and some intriguing tackles that kind of complement each other as well there.
Yeah. I don't think Storm Duck's in the draft. Did he transfer? Is he at Louisville now?
It says Louisville on his thing, but
I thought he went back to school. I've seen some people put him in mock drafts, but I've seen he went back to school. Anyway, because if so, too, he should go higher than that. Like he's a decent player, but I for the longest time thought he went back to school. Anyway, where were we here? Yeah, so didn't get like that premium tackle, but you take 3 project guys that, like, between the 3 of them, can you find somebody? Makes me nervous for 2024. It's been a long-term outlook, decent chance we're back looking for a receiver next year. Ladd McConkey, Bub Means, again, good pairing. I don't know that either of them have that like wide receiver one upside, but they both have a chance to be really good number 2s. Like the Cade Stover pick, Mo Kamara, again, that, I'd like to see him add a pass rush with some sense of urgency. Every one of these simulators is Jalen Simpson just on the board till the end of the day. Don't know why. Don't think that's going to be the case, but again, like this is more of a quantity versus quality draft, but like the quantity is good, right? You got multiple wide receivers who we think baseline can play in this league. You got 3 tackles. So, okay, you have a lot to work with there. And not only do they need starters, they need backups. But there is a chance next year we're going back and looking for a tackle and a receiver again. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you get Amadaji, Fisher, and Glover, you hope one of those guys can kind of hit and develop there. But then, yeah, there is the chance that you could be, your first pick of next year's draft is looking at a tackle. I love I still love Ladd. Just love the receivers that can, separate like that in the 4.39 speed. It's just, he's not your kind of prototypical white slot receiver. He's got a little bit more to him. The size does scare me a little bit, but I don't even know if he'd make it to 42. I feel like he could be a sneaky like end of the first round guy, or Carolina's looking at him with the first pick of the second round. Like you might have to take Ladd at 34 there, but yeah, I like the rest of the haul with Kate Stover, Dylan Labe, Mo Camaro would be a good add to that edge rusher group. So I like the haul there, but we can go to our next one. But before we do that, we are going to take a very quick break, and we are going to hear from our friends over at Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is America's number one fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take to the game and take it to a new level during basketball's postseason. Testing your skills on Prize Picks this basketball season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. Prize Picks is really simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. So check it out, Prize Picks. It's the way to go. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
All right, back to our next draft here. No trades in this one. Staying true to the board with the 8 selections. Another Drake May.
Yep.
A.D. Mitchell falls to the second round, pick 34 in this one. And then Amada G again at the tackle spot, again going QB, wide receiver, and tackle. Javon Foster works his way in. Jalen Simpson again is the last pick in the 7th round. Theo Johnson is a pretty intriguing tight end, but Jalen Simpson is getting no love on these simulators, huh?
No, but I mean, this is solid. Now, does it Medici fall to 68 if there's such a run on tackles that A.D. Mitchell falls to 34? I think that's a real question. We get a little deeper into that. Renardo Green's not a guy we've talked a lot about. Hybrid corner, slot, boundary guy. So kind of like that Jonathan Jones, this short of player, Miles Bryant-ish, which they may be looking for. They may say, hey, we don't want, a pure boundary corner. John Jones contract's almost up. We want a guy that may have some slot upside as well, that can move like John Jones can. In that case, a guy like Renardo Green, and that's about the right place. Take him. High upside, athletic, tight end Theo Johnson. When you don't trade, when you're limited to 8 picks, it's tough to double up. I like the choice to double up a tackle over receiver with Javon Foster, who's a guy we've obviously talked a lot about. Garendo's a good pick. And again, Jalen Simpson, just you can get him in the 7th round. So I guess why not? But this is a very good draft. It was a very good draft. I think there'd be a lot to be happy about here.
Yeah, especially if you get, A.D. Mitchell, he's your prototypical X. So you probably don't, if you get him, you have all these kind of complementary inside slot guys, so you might not have to double up at that position. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good haul. I'd be pretty happy with that one. So good work, Nicholas. But on to the next. Another Drake May. Jordan Morgan is a tackle we haven't talked about yet today, and they double up later with Amada G again at 103. Might be a little out of his range. Slick Rick there at 71. Don't think he's gonna make it there. Cam Hart at 137, a good kind of lengthy boundary corner, and then Jaheim Bell again, who we talked about. But what are you thinking about Jordan Morgan? Because that's kind of the big guy we haven't talked about there yet. Shorter arms, but good athlete that might be kind of a good fit in this AVP kind of run system.
Yeah, if you heard me on with Taylor last week, we kind of got into it about those. And also Felger has big board pick Jordan Morgan. Like,
there you go.
He's a decent prospect in a bubble, but there's a real chance he ends up as a guard. And if I'm the Patriots, they've invested a ton of guard. They desperately need a tackle specifically. I want a guy that his up. I would take a guy who maybe has a little more chance to be a bust, but if he hits, is going to be a tackle, right? So with Morgan, he's either going to be an okay tackle, a good guard, or a bust. I would rather a guy that's going to be just a good to great tackle or a bust. I don't need that guard buffer because that doesn't do anything for the Patriots. Honestly, some of Jordan Morgan's game reminds me a good amount of Isaiah Wynn. And I don't think they need to make that pick again. Go out, tweeners. Go out. You can get the versatile Brandon Coleman lineman later. Go out, get a true tackle because that's what you need to be. 34. It's not a first round pick, but I personally think there's more than 32 players in this class with first round talent. Like I think you're going to get a first round player at 34, and or moving up. You can get a first round caliber tackle investing that 34th pick, whether it's at 34, moving up a little bit, like a starting caliber tackle, not maybe he's a tackle, maybe he's a guard. No, tackle. And that's what I want to see him go get. So let some other team draft Jordan Morgan. I'm sure he'll be great there at guard or at tackle, whatever. The Patriots need to be looking at tackles, period, full stop.
Yeah. Go get like Kingsley or Tyler Guyton, like guys who might be a bit raw and maybe they fail that way, but they're tackles, right? They're 6'7", really good athletes, like long arms. Like if they're gonna fail, they're gonna fail at tackle at least instead of moving inside to guard.
In my mind, if you have to move Jordan Morgan into guard, it's a fail of a pick. Even if he becomes a decent guard, it's a bust of a pick because you just used he's going to be a left guard if he plays guard. And you just used a first round pick on a guard 2 years ago. That is for a team that has not made the playoffs for, let's be honest, probably not playoffs, right? 3 years in a row, you make the playoff. You don't make the playoffs. In 2 of those 3 years, you take a guard in the first round. I don't. So I'd rather go out and get that real tackle. And where Graham Barton, same thing. Graham Barton's a center. Graham Barton's not even a guard. Graham Barton's a center. Like, go get me a real tackle.
Yep. Amarius Mims is another one of those guys. If he slide, like, what has he only started? Like 9-10 games in college, but just a monster. Yeah. But just like a monster at the position. Like he's gonna be a tackle. He's got all the physical tools, the size checklist. So he's gonna be a tackle. But we talked about Drake May. We talked about Xavier Legette in this one. Just,
how high is that at Brennan Jackson go?
103.
Oh,
we can bring this one up. Like it is, I'd say that could be a kind of reasonable trade down, right? If you're looking to maybe pick up another top 100 pick with that 34, right? Move down 9-10 spots with Atlanta there, and you pick up 79, who they use on Jalen McMillan, who has been, I like Jalen McMillan. He's been described, I think Dane Brugler had it first, like kind of that juiced up Jacoby Myers, right? Like he ran like a 4.4, kind of a crafty route runner. So he's an interesting piece, but we hit on most of the other guys. Nate Watson was someone they brought in for a visit at the linebacker spot there. But that could be a trade down path. I think like we did something similar with the Packers where it was like 90, like 41 and 91 or something. So that could be in that range there. We'll go away from Drake May for a second. Sadly, this is kind of an interesting one. David wants to pair a quarterback wide receiver duo not named Drake May and Tez Walker, and he trades up to get Brian Thomas and pair him with Jaden Daniels. We unfortunately again can't see what the trade was, but looks like it was 30.
I think he gave up a future first there. I don't know how else he would have done that. 34 and what?
34. It was 34 and something in the future, or multiple something in the future to get up to 19 for Brian Thomas there. I mean, it'd be a good pairing, but it's just how much future assets do you kind of have to give up, and how much future assets would you consider, worth it to go up 15 spots there for Brian Thomas?
Yeah, that just feels too rich for me.
Yep. But
Rosengard at 68 is a good pick though.
Yeah, I like that pick. Your guy Blake Corum, Jalen Simpson works his way back in there in the 200
Right. Jalen,
range.
just keep taking Jalen Simpson with the last pick. Yeah, Blake Corum at 103 would certainly be interesting. I mean, I feel like if you have the start, you can kind of afford it, especially if you can get Jalen Simpson 200, right? But I feel like if you have this start, you can get Corum at 103. But like you've given up. I hate the idea of giving up next year's first. I hate it.
Yeah. What about next year's second? Would you be more willing to give that up?
If it's something like this, maybe
Because like
it's like
theoretically,
somebody's got to fall.
You could say it's Jaden Daniels, and you're like, we have to give up this year's second and next year's second, but it's Brian Thomas. Like we full on believe in Brian Thomas. We get to pair them, and then next year, maybe Rosengarten works, but next year, like our first round pick is tackle, and then there you go. We have our quarterback, our wide receiver, and tackle, but we don't have our second round pick next year.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting 19 for 34 in a future second though. Like he's gonna have to fall a good amount more to make this happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would do that at 19. I just don't think you're getting
seconds.
19 for that. So
yeah. Probably have to fall mid-20s, 24, 25.
I think you're talking mid-20s, at which point just give up 20, at which point just give up 34, 102, and 180.
Yeah. And get up that way. So
yeah.
But interesting kind of situation working there. Here we go. One from Dom, Drake May again. I'm getting worried with like how much we think Drake May is almost a lock here. I don't like it. Canesley again at 41, slight trade down. We can look at what he gave up or got 34. Yeah, so this is the trade that we were kind of doing 34 at 193, and you pick up 41 and 91, and then a slight trade back there with Cincinnati later on. But Jatavian Sanders is this guy we haven't talked about yet tonight at 68 there. Are you in or out on that one?
Yeah, I really like Jatavian Sanders. He reminds me a ton of David Njoku, and we obviously know what Alex Van Pelt was able to do with him last year. So I think he'd be your second tight end over Austin Hooper. I think he'd give you a chance where, he could supersede Hunter Henry in 2 or 3 years. I'm a huge fan of his. I don't think he's making a 68. So Miami, which doesn't have a ton of needs and can kind of get creative, they sent Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel to the Texas Pro Day specifically to watch Jatavian Sanders. I'd be surprised if they don't get aggressive for him, and if not take him in the first round, at least make him a top 50 pick. So that may be a little late for him, but boy, do I love the idea of him in New England. No, this is a great draft. This is a great draft. I don't love the Javon Baker pick. That's the one I would say, again, can you give me a little more explosiveness? But you do get Luke McCaffrey, who at least you do get an X and a Z, which, okay, really good hip tackle draft with Sanders, Garendo, McCaffrey. Travis Glover's a nice little double dip at tackle there late in the draft. You get a nose tackle in Jordan Jefferson. Cam Hart, who obviously I like. Like I would even take Baker at 91, which I think is a reach. It's your fourth top. He's your fourth top 100 pick. For everything else he did, I would say it's a very good draft.
Yeah.
In this one, I think you come away definitely like, all right, very clearly wide receiver, top of the board in 2025, and then boom, we're rolling.
Yeah. Unless Baker like lights it up out there year one. Yeah, you're probably looking
right.
You hope Canesley develops into that guy, Drake May, and then you can put your wide receiver one in there next year. You have Jatavian Sanders. That's a good haul right there. I'd be pretty happy with that one. Let's see what else we got here. I think we got a few more rolling in. Drake May again, Jordan Morgan we talked about. Works Javon Baker in there again. Two guys we haven't talked about, Jalen Polk at 68 and Kyrie Jackson. Go right back to that Oregon cornerback at 91. Another one of those kind of lengthy boundary guys. Are you a fan of Polk or Jackson there?
Yeah, I like both. I like Polk. Jackson I like as a player, but he's projects a very zone heavy corner. So I don't know if he's an amazing fit here. Like he could probably be okay here, but I feel like they're like Cam Hart in that range, who has more experience playing man, is just going to have a smoother transition, similar physical player, but just has more of that skill set you're looking for, unless they're going to play more zone. If they're going to play more zone under Gerard Mayo, then Kyrie Jackson's a great pick because you need guys with that experience. You don't have a ton right now. I'd also say Devin Culp is an interesting pick here. Just when you look at kind of the history with Wolf and tight ends, and they want athletes at that position, and assuming they don't want to invest a major pick in a tight end, Devin Culp is one of the better, like outside the top 200 athlete tight ends. So maybe he sneaks on the end of their board there, and kind of like it we have here with Trav.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Jalen Polk a lot. I think he's just going to be like a really good number 2 or number 3 in a passing attack. I mean, Peter Schrager had him going first round to the Chiefs, I think, in his mock draft this morning. He's been saying he's getting a lot of hype kind of around the league, so maybe he's not even there at 68, let alone at 41 or 34. But I think he's a good player. Apparently, we're just Patriots fans love Javon Baker for some reason, or he's just like the only receiver in that range that's available there. But Javon Baker is getting the award. It's him and Drake May for the most common players here in this one. May, Morgan again, Jatavian Sanders. Here's a double dip with tight ends, Jatavian Sanders and Jared Wiley. Roman Wilson, I like him a lot. Just another one of those, really good route runners, but more of an inside guy. Don't know if he'd even make it to 68. We'll see. And then there was a second round on the other page. Cedric Johnson, Christian Jones. Was that the first tackle? Oh, no, they got Jordan Morgan. Okay, so Jordan Morgan and Christian Jones are the tackles. Bub Means down there in the 240s. Isaiah Davis, running back, offensive line, interior offensive line depth in Charles Turner. So early kind of tight end dip. Roman Wilson and Bub Means as your kind of receiver package there. So
again, I mean, I said my piece about Jordan Morgan. I don't love doubling up a tight end, especially that high. You have to NFL caliber tight end. It's more about, I don't think you're getting Sanders at 103 anyway, but I think you're just looking for a project guy to develop long-term behind Henry. I don't think that's a position the Patriots need to double up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think Sanders will be there at 103, but I mean, if you just took like Wiley at 158 or one of those other kind of project guys, I think that's a good route to take at that position. I think we have a few more. Andrew just had no trades, just vibes. I love that, and just wrote it right out for us. Drake May at 3. This is good. This is some guys we haven't talked about. Tyler Guyton. He was in for a 30 visit during this process. Should be the best offensive tackle available if he happened to fall into this range. Johnny Wilson at 68 is an interesting one. Austin Booker at 103. He's also been in for a 30 visit, is an interesting one. And then some guys, Javon Foster, Trey Knox. We've talked about those guys. But yeah, Guyton, Wilson, Booker. That's a trio right there that we haven't seen yet in these. So, I mean, Johnny Wilson's really interesting. Player for his size, movement skills. Booker too, like really raw and young to the position, but had a really good year for Kansas there. So, how you feel about that haul?
I really like this draft. I really like the vibes are on point.
The vibes.
You get your quarterback. You get a starting tackle guy. You get a guy who can be a starting tackle, right? Johnny, you're not going to get a wide receiver one at this point, but you get Johnny Wilson, who's a really intriguing prospect. Austin Booker, it might be a little low. I know he didn't do trades, but I don't need DeCamerion Richardson. So let's just package 103 and 180 and say we moved up a little bit and took Austin Booker at the end of day 2. Javon Foster, good double up a tackle. Trey Knox, again, that project athlete tight end, converted receiver. And he added a running back at the end just to round out the depth there. I know I'd say the one thing is you don't get a corner. I know I just kind of axed Richardson, but he's another guy that I don't necessarily love the scheme fit for him. But even without that, this would be great. This draft, what this draft does, I think why I like this so much is it does a very good job of balancing the needs of 2024 and beyond. because next year edge is going to be a major need because you have guys in contract years. Well, Booker kind of helps mitigate that. With Guyton, you're getting a guy where really you should, and Foster, I'd say you have a starting tackle, backup tackle. Like, you should be good at the tackle position between those two guys. You're still probably going to need a receiver, but this does a really good job of balancing all of that. This is a very good draft.
Yeah. I think Guyton would be an awesome pick if he's got to make it to 34. Maybe, again, there were no trades here for Andrew. Maybe that's someone they get a little aggressive with it and move up for. Austin Booker is just like really intriguing for me. Like, he's played 500 career defensive snaps. He went to Minnesota. He redshirted, and then he played like 20 snaps his first year, and then he transfers to Kansas. He played 500 snaps, and like he had 8 sacks, 12 tackles for loss. He had like a really good year, and like he could be a really, like, he's an explosive kind of rusher, but he can play the run well because he can like kind of dip and dodge some of those defenders with his athletic ability. He could be like a really good rotational development guy behind Uche, behind Judon. And then, you assume maybe Uche walks and you can kind of thrust him into that role moving forward. So he's a guy who's really been interested in me of late.
Yeah.
103 might be a little late though, but again, the vibes were good, just no trade. So that's a pretty good haul. I'd be pretty happy with that one.
Yep.
Last one here. We got May and Guyton again. So this one we got a small trade up to go get Tyler Guyton, Jalen McMillan, Devondre Sweats fall into
Felger Mass big board.
Oh, he made it.
He made it, and they got all excited. They were Felger said put him at the top of the big board, and then I had to go in there and tell him he got a DUI.
He wasn't aware of that yet.
The magazine was, I think, published before last week. Yeah. So
okay, that's too bad. So what if he's there? If he's there 103, and you hit quarterback, you hit offensive tackle, you hit wide receiver.
Look, I wouldn't touch him in the top 100. It's not just the DWI. It's a guy that there were concerns about his commitment to football, who then gets a DWI. So that issue is more confirming a prior than like a new sort of red flag, which is different. And I'm not taking that guy in the top 100 in general. Like, those are guys you want to stick. Those are guys you want to be almost positive you're going to give second contracts to. But he falls to day 3. I don't think they'll do it because they've preached character a lot and all that. And I think that kind of makes it a tough sell. But man, can he play? Man, can he play? And is he just such a perfect fit for this defense? Like, I don't think they'll take him, but I think it's going to be very hard for them not to take him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he'd be really tempting there at 103, putting him next to Christian Barmore. But yeah, character has been such a kind of a big thing for them and building this new culture out. So you're right. Like, it wasn't even just the DWI. There were pre-concerns about him even before that, it seemed like. And then, 3 weeks before the draft, you get a DWI. Not great. But it would be a tempting pick there if he slides into day 3 into that 100 range. Lastly, Mo Camara, we talked about. I think we both are fans. I don't know if he makes it to 193. What do you think about our Holy Cross receiver? Yeah,
I wouldn't take Jalen Coker that high. He's a one-note player, and look, he's really good jump ball receiver, but he's not that big. And I have questions about how that will translate. He's going to be a red zone threat at the next level, like purely. So I'm not against taking him, but I wouldn't take him that high. I'd take him later.
Yep. I wonder what this trade was, because somehow we moved up from 34 to 29.
He has it there. He says traded 34 in a future second for 29 in a future fourth.
It's kind of a lot to move up just 5 spots, right?
Yeah, but you're moving up. The thing about moving up from 34, and this is where it does get expensive, you're essentially buying the 5th-year option.
Yeah.
Like, so the biggest drop off in value in the NFL draft is pick 1 to pick 2, because you no longer have your choice of any player. The second biggest drop off in value is actually not 2 to 3. It's 32 to 33. because you lose the 5th-year option. So that's why these trades are a little more expensive than maybe they look on paper, right? 34 to 29, 28, 27, what have you, even like 34 to 30, because you're paying a team to give up that 5th-year option. That's why Arizona's at what, like 26, 27? Arizona already has a first-round pick. So it may make more sense. Now, they may just want to sit and make that pick and say, we need a lot of players. We want to make 2 first-round picks. But a team that already has a first-round pick that knows it has a player on that 5th-year option, may be a little easier to sell them on it than one of these other teams. I don't remember off the top. Is it actually, I think 29 is Buffalo, right? Buffalo's not trading with you.
No, 29 is Detroit. Arizona's 27. Okay. Buffalo's in the middle at 28. So 27 could be the spot to jump
27.
Buffalo,
but like Detroit is a team that's in a spot where they can maybe trade back. Yeah. So that's not totally unrealistic, but the price is about right. It is going to be more expensive to move up a couple of spots here than it would be, say, the same number of spots within the second round, because you got to go up into that first round range where there is that 5th-year option.
Yep. But I mean, it's a pretty good haul. It's a bunch of, I mean, I like May, Guyton, and McMillan. That's a pretty good start.
It was a good draft. Good draft. And you steal Kamara late, and
if they're willing to take the chance on T'Vondre Sweat there, that's a good haul of players. But I believe that's all of them. Yeah, that's it. That's all.
We want to hit refresh. You told people to send them in during the show.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
I've had people send them to me, so I don't know. We're gonna have to look at the times here. Oh yeah, see, 23 minutes ago.
Okay, we got another Drake May.
Yeah, I think we already talked about all these.
Only 6 picks here.
I think how do you end up with a Washington first?
So
he moved back from 34 to 36 and get a future first for that?
That's not happening. And then we're going from 68 to 85 and getting a future third, maybe. But we lose some of our 7th round picks too.
And you're also, I mean, you're taking 2 guys at 36 and 85 that won't be there.
Yeah.
All right. Nice thought. Good players, but maybe a little liberal with the trading.
Let's see. Anything else? That's an all quarterback draft.
Well, let's see.
Okay. Drake May, Bo Nix, Spencer Rattler, Michael Pratt, Joe Milton, Sam Hartman, Austin Reed, Carter Bradley. One of them has to work, right? One of them has to.
I have Milton ahead of Pratt and Bradley ahead of Reed and Hartman, but sure.
But yeah, May, Nix, Rattler, Milton, Pratt. Yeah. Just take them all, right? As
take them all.
Josh says, take them all. One of them.
Well, respect for not having Michael Penix at 34, though. Respecting the board there, clearly.
That's true. 3 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, 50 minutes. This was at the start.
That's right about when we started. Oh, your guy Taylor Demerson.
Okay.
This one has some different players.
Oh, we trade Bailey Zappi. How about that?
What they get for Zappi? Zoom in a little bit there.
Jay Smooth is out on Bailey Zappi. He's trading Bailey Zappi and pick 180 to move up to 160. So you move up 12 spots.
I trade 193 instead of 180. Trade Bailey Zappi with the Mac Jones pick.
Yeah. That would but yeah, May, Cainsley, Javon Baker, those guys we talked about. I like
the Taylor Demerson pick, true free safety.
Yep.
Anaya Smith I like as a player. There's so much overlap with Pop Douglas. Like I wonder about getting them both on the field. Big Dylan Johnson fan. That's a great pick. Obviously like Tip Raymond. And then we've talked about Ezreem a little bit as like a project player. Like it's not a bad way to round out the draft. This isn't bad. I don't love the haul at wide receiver, but besides that, I'd say this is a very solid draft.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also an interesting trade, not the Bailey Zappi trade, but if they stick at 3, stick at 34, and they still want to maybe get some assets, you move down 8 spots there in the 3rd round, and you pick up a top 125 pick there with Denver. So some interesting moves, interesting players there, but Bailey Zappi, Jay Smooth, getting them out on draft night to the Saints. I mean, I guess the Saints could be a reasonable landing spot kind of for him.
That would make some sense, yeah. I think we traded Mac Jones to the Saints in our first mock draft.
think we did. Yeah. Okay, that might be it. Oh no, 41 minutes ago. This looks like.
We did this
Did we
one, I
talk
think.
about this one? We
Yeah,
talked
we
about
did.
that one.
We did. 'Cause we talked about Devin Culp.
Yep. 1 hour ago, Andrew with our Just Vibes. Oh, here we go. No, we did that one too. Okay, that's
Yeah, all right.
fun. That one.
And we didn't
32
get
minutes ago.
one tits and bio reply. Look at that.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, hitting the show more there. That was a dangerous move. But yeah, those are all of our mocks. So thank you everyone for sending those in. Glad to yell at you guys instead of you guys yelling at us for a change there. But any parting thoughts, last thoughts before we log on out of here?
I'm really excited to hear what Wolf's going to have to say on Thursday. Last year when Groh spoke, I think he telegraphed a lot of what they were going to do. And I remember coming away from that. My big takeaway was they're taking a corner. I didn't think it was going to be Gonzalez because I didn't think Gonzalez was going to fall to 17. But yeah, definitely. I think we learned a lot last year from Groh, and we'll see if we get the same thing from Wolf.
Yep. Will be fun to hear. So again, that is Thursday morning. We're going to talk to him. We will be back here live shortly after early Thursday afternoon show. So make sure you tune into that. You can follow Patriots CLNS on Twitter. We will let you know when we are going live there. And then next week, just to remind everyone again, Tuesday will be our last live mock draft 6.0. We're not going to do it Thursday. Again, we're talking about Wolf. Tuesday will be the draft, and then we'll be back Friday to talk about the first round in the 1 or 2 or 3. Who knows how many players they're going to walk away with. But that is the schedule ahead. So make sure, again, follow Patriots CLNS on Twitter. You can subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications so you do know when we go live. You can also follow Alex on Twitter at Real Alex Barth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com to read his Patriots coverage over there. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines and head over to patspulpit.com to read our draft coverage over there as well. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in with us tonight and for sending in your mock drafts. Thank you for listening, and we will see you guys on Thursday.